Look at white-fronted geese, 15 feet away. Those are wild birds. Opening this up and allowing the birds to come right up to the tour loop, people get to visualize and see them, and it makes for a really good experience. Loafing islands and structure to continue to bring every one of these ponds so the birds are highly visible from this auto tour loop. The next pond is a pond that we worked on this year, and you'll see it's wide open, but look at the birds. From people driving this tour loop, they can see all the birds on the islands right up close. You notice most of the birds out there are pintail. They're one of the first birds to arrive. They start arriving here when we start flooding in mid-July and irrigating. They put on their adult plumages here, so they need lots of protein and calcium, and they get that from the invertebrates. Well, one of those invertebrates people really don't like is mosquitoes, but they provide a high protein source that allows these birds to get the nutrients they need to molt into their adult plumages. These waterfowl management areas were here to prevent depredation of agricultural crops, and they were managed on a seasonal basis consistent with the migratory birds. So at the end of the waterfowl season, migratory season, they just pull the boards and dry them up. Now what we're looking at is year-round management for all species, resident waterfowl and resident wildlife species, along with migratory species that visit the area seasonally. And you know, that starts anywhere depending on whether they're going north or south, but for the shallow wading birds, shorebirds and stuff like that, they're coming through in July and August, so we have to have habitat for them, and then they're coming back at the same time. So it's a year-round management now, so we look to try to put wetlands habitat during the summer that we have some water every half mile. And then we're drawing ponds down. At the same time, we're irrigating ponds to produce diverse moist soil plants for migratory birds. So you're meeting the niches while you're trying to maximize production of the land. These were natural wetlands to begin with, and there were no dams. They couldn't be farmed. The only thing that were out here were ducks and cows. So as a result of the Oroville Dam, the Shasta Dam, these areas don't flood anymore. If we didn't manage them by putting the water on, they'd just be dry lands now. And during wet years, they still would flood because there's part of the Valley-wide flood control program. It's going to a full-time year-round project, and being the drought this year, you get into this exotic weed issue, parrot's feather, where these ditches would normally be dry, but because they're wet year-round, we're promoting non-native exotic weeds that are taking over the water conveyance system, and that becomes another management strategy that we have to take care of so that we continue to flow water. So one of the biggest things out here in a wetland is producing water. Gray Lodge Wildlife Area is lucky enough to have 21 deep wells. And as you can see, it's putting out really good, clear, clean water for these wetlands and the wildlife that benefit from it. Tour loop, it's 100% water efficient from a wetland standpoint. I don't think that's a good thing, but it's the cards we're dealt, and that we're using them. Not all of the refuge is flooded. We normally would be about 70% flooded this time of year. We're probably somewhere around 52%, and that includes both hunt and close zone. In order to maximize the water, it's going from the east side, traveling westward, and we're using it multiple times. It is known worldwide for what's called the night flight. People come from all over the world to experience it. Just after dusk, all of these birds will get up to go out and feed, and it looks like a bunch of mosquitoes blacking out the sky. It is a very unique thing to see. Come the end of November, early December, this 2,500 acre close zone will peak out at about 1.6 to 1.8 million migratory waterfowl. 80% of our public that shows up here, they want to see the snow geese. They're noisy, they're very jumpy, they can jump up and down, they're very visible. Where a lot of the birds out here that you see now, while there's plenty of ducks right here, those being mallard, they're very cryptic and not easy to see. We're providing areas for nesting birds and perching birds, and therefore we're kind of selecting and providing habitat for your raptors because it gives them places not only to nest, but to perch. But at the same thing, those same perching birds are looking down at the ground at another species we're trying to protect, which is a giant garter snake. Well, you put these gravel roads out here along these ditches, it's perfect habitat for them, but the snakes get up here and they thermoregulate. You got a nice Swainsson hawk up there. what do you do when a Swenson hawk takes a giant garter snake? So, one of the dilemmas of wildlife management. You do something good, you think, for one species, and it's hurting another.